The More Show is in partnership with Ozark Mountain Publishing, taking readers beyond the unexplained.
If you like what you watch, then don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates on The More Show. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new weekly television and radio shows.
The More Show is supported by Mindscape, Paranormal and UFO Matrix magazines, available for download on all major digital platforms.
Welcome back to the show. Now I'm about to be joined by Robert Waggoner, who's an author and lucid dreamer. In 1975, he taught himself how to lucid dream, or realize within a dream that he's dreaming. Since that time, he has logged more than 1,000 lucid dreams and is considered an expert on the subject. Robert Waggoner is the author of the acclaimed book, Lucid Dreaming, Gateway to the Inner Self. Good evening, Robert.
Hi, Kevin. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thanks for coming on. Whereabouts are you, and what time is it in your zone when you are?
Yeah, so it's 8 o'clock in the evening here in the middle of America.
Okay, so not too late. That's fantastic. We're not keeping you up.
No problem.
Right. Okay. What is lucid dreaming?
So lucid dreaming means, of course, that you realize within a dream that you're dreaming. And the first time it happened to me was just spontaneously when I was a child. I was dreaming that I was in the public library and saw a dinosaur, a Tyrannosaurus Rex, walking through the book stacks. And then it occurred to me, wait a second, dinosaurs are extinct, so this must be a dream. And at that moment, I was lucidly aware.
Okay, so step us through your book as well, Lucid Dreaming. How did this book come about?
Right. So I had taught myself in 1975 how to lucid dream, even before the scientific evidence emerged. And as I went deeper and deeper into lucid dreaming, I realized that there was so much more that you could do with this. And there were a few books out there on the subject, some by Stephen LaBerge and other people, but I didn't really feel like they were giving the full view of what was possible within lucid dreaming.
So how does a sort of lucid dream differ from a sort of a normal dream? Is it you know that you're in a dream?
Right, exactly. That's the fundamental thing. You understand in the dream that you're dreaming. For example, when I saw that dinosaur, I just had the thought that dinosaurs are extinct, so this must be a dream.
Absolutely, yeah.
But for other people, it might be they see their deceased grandmother, and they think, wait a second, grandma's been dead for 10 years now. This must be a dream. So in a lucid dream, you have that kind of critical awareness. You realize you're dreaming, and then you can decide what it is that you want to do. But in a regular dream, we just accept whatever happens. We're in a boat, then we're in a car, then we're on a motorcycle. You know, we just go along with whatever happened, and we lack that critical awareness. Okay,
so when we are having a lucid dream and we're in control of it in a sense, have we left our body? And has our soul left our body? And if so, where has it gone?
So there's the experience of out-of-body experiences, but in my book, I make the distinction between out-of-bodies and lucid dreams. There's about 6 distinctive characteristics, so you can differentiate the two.
Okay, well, what would be a sort of practical use of lucid dreaming then, if you are in control of it, for example?
Right. So once you become lucidly aware and you realize that you're dreaming, at first you can do just whatever fun thing that you want. If you want to fly around like Harry Potter on a broom, you can do that. If you want to walk through a wall or talk to dream figures, you can do all those sort of things. So that's the first thing is the fun aspect of it. But as you go deeper into it, you start to realize there's so much more you can do. You could access your inner creativity. You could heal your emotional self or emotional issues. You could heal physical issues. You can even seek information outside of time and space. And by that, I mean precognitive and telepathic information. So you can do all those sort of things within a lucid dream.
Wow, telepathic information. I mean, communication with what, for example?
Right. So that's a good question. Here's an example of that. A student wrote me from the University of Florida. I mentioned this in my book. Uh, he had read my magazine, The Lucid Dreaming Experience, and realized that I thought that you could get unknown information and then later validate it in the morning when you wake up from the lucid dream. And so I encouraged him to do his own experiment. And so he found a young woman in the dorm there who told him that when you become lucidly aware, come and find me and find the weird freckle on my back. And then when you wake up in the morning, you can come and see if you really know where the weird freckle is. And so the first time he became lucidly aware, he was trying to get to her room, but all these other dream figures were yelling at him, and it was so much hassle. He woke up. But then the next time he became lucidly aware, he thought, why should I go to all the bother of going to her? I'll just have her come to me. And all of a sudden, there's a knock at the door, and she enters the room. And there she turns around, and now he sees her back and this weird freckle right above her rear end. And in the morning, he wakes up, he goes down to her room, she puts on a t-shirt, and she says, when I put your finger on the weird freckle where you think it is, and then I'll pull up my t-shirt and we'll see if you're right. And he said that when she pulled up the t-shirt, his finger was actually touching the weird freckle. So that's an example of getting telepathic information within a lucid dream. It's information outside of his own knowing, and he was able to get the correct information.
But going outside his own knowing, as you put it, where is that? I mean, how has he left his body, in a sense, scientifically? And what are we talking about? You know, is this isn't a different dimension? This is within the same dimension, but where in the space time has he gone?
Right. So it might be that in some sense he's in the collective unconscious, that he's in some larger universal mind, or however you want to think about it, and that he's gotten the information from this larger hidden order, this order of dreaming. So in any case, there's a lot of examples of people who have used lucid dreaming to get telepathic information. And in fact, I was on a lucid dreaming forum once, lucipedia.com, and they asked me, when I told them that I thought it was possible to do this, they asked me to do an experiment, and because they thought it was all just trickery. And so I told them to find a telepathic sender some night and send me an image, and that I would send in all my dream reports, and they could then reveal the image. And when they did that, they saw that all my dreams that night had aspects of the dream image, which was a waitress in a restaurant. So dream telepathy has a long history, and has actually even been scientifically studied.
Incredible. And when you say the collective consciousness, you're talking about a dimension or a place where we end up once we've left our body, in a sense, when we pass on there, a place where we perhaps do come from and go back to?
You know, out-of-body experiences are fundamentally different than lucid dreams. So in a lucid dream, you become consciously aware within a dream that you're dreaming. Normally, for those people who've had out-of-bodies, they'll say that they were falling asleep, they began to hear this humming around their head, or this buzzing, or this vibratory energy, and then they roll out or move out of their body into a OBE environment.
Yeah.
And so they're similar in that they happen at night, and normally they happen in bed. But the lucid dream happens when you become consciously aware within an ongoing dream that you're dreaming.
And I know I've had those dreams where I've woken up and I was like, I was in control there. And I'm sure there's a lot of people listening who would say, yeah, you know, I've done that as well. But again, there's been those horrible dreams where you're running away from something and, you know, it's trying to catch you, and you wake up and you think, well, why don't I just stop? Why don't I just become consciously aware in that moment and not run? But I suppose these are different dream levels, are they?
Well, we could call them different dream levels, but one way that lucid dreaming has been very helpful is some therapists have begun to use lucid dreaming as a way to help those who have recurring nightmares, especially people who have post-traumatic stress disorder. They might have served in the wars in Iraq or Afghanistan, and every night they have nightmares. And so the therapists teach them to become consciously aware when that nightmare scenario begins. And normally, if they become lucid just once, then they never have that nightmare again. And for many of them, that's an incredible blessing because finally they get their normal sleep pattern back.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I've experienced deja vu as well in dreams. I think as well, lucid dreams that I can probably remember being in control of. Is that a normal thing?
Well, so oftentimes in the dream state, something might spur your thinking that, wait a second, I don't live in my childhood home any longer. And then you realize, oh, this must be a dream. And so you can have those kind of moments of deja vu or critical awareness kick in where you question the environment. And then at those moments, that's when you can become lucid and then you can do just extraordinary things.
Okay, okay. Wow, this is interesting. Lucid dreaming. So, can you create the, can you have a situation where you're going to bed and you say, oh, well, okay, I'm going to be in charge of this dream and I'm going to create my own dream reality. Is that possible?
Right. So you can, before you go to sleep, you can make a suggestion like, tonight in my dreams, I'll be more critically aware. And when I see something strange, I'll realize I'm dreaming. And you just keep repeating that suggestion to yourself over and over before you go to sleep. And then in the middle of the night, you might be dreaming. You'll see something strange, an elephant fly by, and you'll go, wait, this is impossible. This must be a dream. And so then at that moment, if you know what to do, you can begin to manipulate and influence the lucid dream. But it's really quite a long process of learning. And there's a lot of tricks that are in my book, how I teach people how to stabilize the lucid dream so they don't pop out, and also how to influence and manipulate the lucid dream. But really, Kevin, they're manipulating their mind is what they're doing. They're not actually manipulating something out there. They're manipulating their mind.
Yeah, you don't feel it's anything more than that, no?
Well, that said, the mind is an incredibly deep place because when you get into these lucid dreams, you realize that they connect to a larger awareness and even possibly a collective unconscious. So even though you might have to manipulate your mind, you begin to explore the psyche at a deeper level, and that's when you have just incredible experiences.
Okay. Is there sort of stages to lucid dreaming as well?
Right. In my book, I kind of mentioned that there's 5 stages. And the first one, when you become lucidly aware, you're probably just more likely to play around. Just like a little kid, you'll compare and contrast the waking world to the dream world. You'll see how your senses work in a lucid dream. Can you taste in a lucid dream? Can you smell in a lucid dream? What do things feel like in a lucid dream? And then you go to another stage where you start to manipulate things. You learn these kind of mental rules that allow you to manipulate the dream objects and interact with the dream figures a little bit more deeply. And then you get to this kind of stage of having an incredible sense of power and primacy. And normally at that stage is when you become deflated because you realize that you're dealing with more than just the contents of your own mind. You're dealing with your larger self and even a larger awareness beyond that. And so in my book, I talk about how you can get even to these deeper stages where you begin to reach out to that larger awareness.
How deep have you gone with lucid dreaming then?
You know, it took me 20 years, but I finally got to the point that I wanted to go beyond lucid dreaming. And at that point, I began to have very strange experiences. Normally what would happen, I'd fall asleep at night, and the entire night there'd be nothing but blue light. And when I'd wake up in the morning, there'd been no action, no me, no symbols, no nothing, just blue light. And I began to have these deeper and deeper experiences until finally I had a non-dual experience, which at the time I did not understand. It wasn't until 3 years later I heard a Buddhist Lama speak, Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche, who wrote the book the Tibetan yogas of dream and sleep. And he said the ultimate goal of dream yoga is a non-dual experience, an experience of awareness by awareness itself. And it shocked me that there was a name for this experience that I'd had 20 years after I began lucid dreaming.
And what was it like to have awareness aware of itself then?
You know, it's a strange experience because there's no subject-object. There's not even a way of talking about it because our language is a subject-object. But I came out of the experience and I was suddenly aware myself, and there's a man in a robe there, and I asked him, what was that? Was that a lucid dream? And he said, oh no, to enter a lucid dream, go this way. And I stepped into the space he indicated, went through a tunnel of light, and then popped into a dream, totally lucidly aware. But in the morning when I woke up, I realized that that sense of awareness, being aware within a larger awareness, was something utterly profound, and I had no context for it until I heard this Buddhist Lama, Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche, speak.
Did you find it quite a source of love?
You know, what it taught me was that we exist in an interconnected oneness, that everything is fundamentally interconnected. Even it was told to me in a lucid dream once. In a lucid dream, I heard a voice tell me that everything is conscious and alive. And then it said, even the space between your fingers is conscious and alive. And so by going deeper and deeper into lucid dreaming, I realized that we exist within an interconnected oneness and that everything fundamentally is conscious and alive.
I guess that must have changed you, having these experiences like what you've just described there. So you, again, you must have, this work has really changed you and grown you in different ways, surely.
Precisely. It's one of these things that at the surface, it just seems fun and joyful. You fly around, you walk through walls, you walk on water, you do those kind of things. But in the Buddhist tradition, they have the tradition of dream yoga, which uses lucid dreaming as one of the primary techniques. And Naropa, the 11th century Indian Buddhist yogi, he said that dream yoga was one of the 6 paths to enlightenment. And so that's how much respect they give to this idea of lucid dreaming, that it can lead you to incredible insights, but you have to know how to do it, and conceptually you have to know how to keep growing as a lucid dreamer. Yes,
and I mean that's life in general, isn't it? I suppose you do this work that you do, and you have no choice but to grow, I suppose. Okay, well, I'm very conscious that an ad break's coming up here as well. I guess with your work on the oneness, if we just sort of finish it off on here, would you say that sort of revelation was important towards your work, to, as you grow your work forward?
Right, and also I think it's something that physics is coming to an understanding of. In modern physics, we understand that energy and matter are fundamentally one. But I think what we're finally getting to is the point of an interconnected oneness where we realize that energy and matter and consciousness are fundamentally one. And when physics finally comes to that conclusion, I think we'll have a revolution in science and really a great leap forward for all of society and all awarenesses everywhere.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Robert, stay tuned and we'll be right back after this ads.
The More Show is in partnership with Ozark Mountain Publishing, taking readers beyond the unexplained.
Visit themoreshow.co.uk/shop to purchase products and services from your favourite past guests. If you're new to this site, you can also catch up on the previous television and radio shows through YouTube and the More Show website.
The More Show is supported by Mindscape, Paranormal and UFO Matrix magazines, available for download on all major digital platforms. Broadcasting from the studios of Radio Cardiff, you're now watching The More Show.
Welcome back to the show. I'm still currently joined with Robert Waggoner, author of the acclaimed book Lucid Dreaming, Gateway to the Inner Self. Robert, just before the ad break there, we were talking about oneness. And, you know, it's incredible just how much this comes into the conversation with so many of the guests we've had on. You know, it all seems to, you know, the language nowadays has gone very much towards this direction, has it not?
I think so. It's surprising how many traditions and how many techniques are seemingly leading everyone to the same sorts of experiences and the same sort of conclusion.
Absolutely, absolutely. So now you did mention about lucid dreaming as well being a tool to help, emotional healing as well as other forms of healing. Is that right?
Right. So as you begin to become good at lucid dreaming, you realize that there's much more that you can do than just play around. And one thing that, as I mentioned, therapists have used lucid dreaming to help people who have recurring nightmares. And normally when they become lucidly aware just one time, and often they'll face the nightmare character, that's all they need, just one time, and they return to their normal sleeping. But I've also seen examples of lucid dreamers using lucid dreaming to overcome phobias, fear of heights, fear of flying, fear of spiders. I even read the other week of a woman who used lucid dreaming to get rid of her fear of centipedes. So you can use lucid dreaming to deal with these kind of fears as well.
But your book, it does give examples of lucid dreamers who have had no health improvement. Why was this? Right.
So in my book, I have a chapter on people who have used lucid dreaming for physical healing. And here would be an example. There was a woman named Annie. She had horrible plantar warts on her feet, and they were so painful, it was difficult for her to walk. She was constantly in pain every time she had to walk. So a friend of mine told her, in a lucid dream, try to physically heal yourself. What happened to Annie is she became lucidly aware in a dream. She remembered that she wanted to heal her plantar warts. And so in the lucid dream, she created a ball of healing light between her hands. And then in the lucid dream, she put the ball of healing light over each of her feet, intending for them to be healed. When she woke up in the morning, she looked at her feet, and overnight, all the plantar warts had turned black. And within 9 days, they all fell off and they never returned. So you can see how she became aware and just directed healing intent and had a profound physical effect.
What about having future dreams with the lucid dream techniques? Is that possible?
Right. So in a lucid dream, you can seek out future information. I'll give you kind of a personal example because this answers a few different types of scenarios. Once in a dream, I saw a ladder, and coming down the ladder, I realized was my father. But then it occurred to me, wait a second, my father's been dead for 3 years now, so this must be a dream. And at that moment, I became lucidly aware. And so then I began to wonder, well, wait a second, is this my father as a spiritual being, or is this my father a dream symbol? And so I thought, I'll ask him some questions and see how we respond. So we greeted each other, and then in the lucid dream, I told my father, I said, look, Dad, you're from the land of the dead. When do you think Mom will pass away? And my father looked at me and he said, oh, she'll probably pass away in 2 to 6 years. And I said, of what? And he replied, a heart condition. And then I asked him a few more questions, and then he told me that I needed to be quiet so he could tell me what he had come to tell me. But as it turned out in waking reality, even though my mother had never had any heart problems, 23 months later, almost exactly 2 years later, she went to the hospital and almost died of a heart condition. And then a few years after that, she went back to the hospital and almost died of a heart condition again because she'd been taking a prescription drug that was harming her heart. So you can see how this information was later validated, was proved correct, And you can see this as an example of how you could get future or forward-looking information in a lucid dream.
Had you told your mother of the information that had been
No,
channeled to you?
I didn't want to upset her or to create a self-fulfilling prophecy.
That's what I was getting to. Yeah.
I wanted my mom to continue on, and so I kept it to myself and didn't reveal it until after the 6 years passed.
So she had no prior knowledge, like you say, for a self-fulfilling prophecy. Well, surely then that information, I've talked before earlier on in the conversation that, is this channeled information from some sort of like spirit guides or something? But do you not reckon that was information from something that was that consciously perhaps was your father?
So in my book, I have an entire chapter of lucid dreamers who have interacted with the deceased, and there's even been personal experiments done by lucid dreamers to seek out the deceased, deceased friends or acquaintances that they don't know very well in waking life. And oftentimes they'll find them in these interesting scenarios where they've created kind of an hallucinated realm around themselves, the deceased have, and they're the age that they were when they were at their greatest health and greatest vigor. And also they're surrounded by all the things that they loved in the waking life experience. And sometimes they realize that they've passed over, and other times they don't want to hear the lucid dreamer even tell them that. But when the lucid dreamer wakes up and tells the family what the lucid dreamer saw, oftentimes the family is amazed because it's information that the lucid dreamer had no way of knowing, but it's what they saw when they sought out the deceased in the lucid dream.
Absolutely, and not just those type of lucid dreams. What about the sort of, I suppose, mutual lucid dreaming as well?
Right. So that's the interesting idea, the idea of becoming mutually, lucidly aware and interacting with someone in a lucid dream. I have kind of a funny story, kind of an interesting example of something like that.
Please,
yeah. One night I became lucidly aware, and I was sitting in a restaurant just admiring the detail, because the creativity of the subconscious mind is so incredible. And at that moment, my friend Mo walked into the door of the restaurant, and I ran up to her and I said, "Mo, this is a dream. We're dreaming this." And she had this look in her eyes like she couldn't focus in my lucid dream. Her eyes were moving left and right, just like a dreamer would who was dreaming. And so I thought I had to convince her. So I grabbed her around the waist and I started to levitate. And I said, "Look, Mo, we're floating. This is a lucid dream." But still, she had that look in her face, like her eyes were moving, and she just could not focus and realize that this is a dream. So then I decided, because I was getting frustrated at that point, I put my fingers in a peace sign, and I shoved it in her face, and I said, "Mo, do you see this peace sign? You can use it as a symbol to help you become consciously aware whenever you want." And with that, I decided to wake up. Well, in the morning, there was no phone call from my friend Mo, no email, and I just kept it to myself because I live in the middle of the U.S. and she lives in the San Francisco area. But 3 months later, I was in San Francisco on a business trip. I realized I had some free time for lunch. I called up Mo, and she agreed to meet me at a restaurant. And I was standing outside the restaurant when Mo came walking up to me, and without saying anything, she shoved a peace sign right in my face. And I asked her, I said, "Mo, why are you doing that?" And she said, "I don't know. I just felt like it."
That's incredible.
So it seems like this information that I passed on in a lucid dream, she picked up at some subconscious level and could reflect it back to me 3 months later. And I did not tell her, did not tell any of our friends or anyone. I just assumed who knew what. So
yeah.
But that's an example of kind of a validation of a mutual lucid dream.
Now you do workshops as well. How are your workshops received as well?
Oh, it's fascinating. I'll have month-long workshops with glidewing.com. And so you have lucid dreamers and people who want to learn lucid dreaming from all around the world. People from Dubai and Brussels and London and Australia and just all over. And it's incredible some of the things that these people accomplish just within a month's time of trying to lucid dream.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. So for example, I suggest to people that you can try physical healing in a lucid dream, and I give some of the techniques and some of the ways that people have apparently accomplished this. And I remember this one gentleman, he had some gastrointestinal problem that he'd had for 15 years or so. And so in his next lucid dream, he had created a plan and he became lucidly aware, remembered he wanted to get rid of this. And it was interesting, Kevin, when he began to project healing energy to heal this gastrointestinal disorder, all of a sudden his deceased grandmother appeared to ask him to heal her first. And he projected healing energy on her, and he said she got a very ecstatic look on her face, and then he proceeded to project healing energy on himself. And in the morning, he said his situation was much improved. I contacted him months later. He said his gastrointestinal issue hadn't appeared anymore. And I asked him, why did he think his grandmother appeared? Because she was deceased and asked for healing.
Yeah.
And he wondered, his grandmother had been in World War II and just seen some horrible things. And he wondered if his gastrointestinal disorder was somehow connected to his grandmother and her kind of sense of constant foreboding and anxiety. And somehow, either on a psychic level or on a psychological level, he had to heal the image of his grandmother before he himself could be healed.
And again, just another example there of healing with lucid dreaming. But you do have a workshop coming in, taking place in the UK as well, don't you?
Right, that's right. Here on May 18th and 19th, I'll be in Dublin, Ireland, with the Gateways of the Mind conference. It's going to be a wonderful conference with 5 or 6 speakers on lucid dreams and out-of-body experiences. Then also on May, I believe, 25th and 26th, that weekend, Saturday and Sunday, I'll be in London giving 2 workshops, one on using lucid dreams as a method of spiritual growth, and one on using lucid dreams for emotional and physical healing. And then the week after that, I'll be in Amsterdam, also giving a conference again with Gateways of the Mind.
How important would you say the emotional healing is as well?
It's utterly profound when you see how transformational these experiences can be for people. I gave a workshop in Bogota, Colombia 6 months ago, and then I was there about 2 months ago to give another workshop. A woman appeared at the second workshop who had been at the first, and she told the group how she heard me the first time talk about emotional healing. And what she decided to do, she became lucidly aware, and she invited the Virgin Mary to come and heal her heart. And the woman said that the figure of the Virgin Mary appeared and gave her healing energy that appeared as light, and she had this ecstatic experience. But what was interesting about this woman, she had changed so much in that 5-month period just by having this one incident of emotional healing in a lucid dream. It was like all the lines in her face disappeared, all that kind of heaviness that I'd seen when I first met her. So you can see profound instances of emotional healing.
And again, would you say as well that you sort of, I suppose it's a natural byproduct, but you heal yourself and you heal others as well?
Right. There's even examples of lucid dreamers who they've gotten the permission of the other person first.
Okay, there we just seem to have lost the connection with Robert. We will try to get him back, but that's interesting stuff, isn't it? That you know, how he's done logged over 1,000 lucid dreams, and you know, the workshops that he's about to do as well, we'll put on our website, so people can get access to his dates and everything. But I think we might have Robert back on the line there. So Robert, welcome back.
Right. Thanks, Kevin. Sorry about that.
Not a problem. Yeah. So this whole process of healing yourself, and you're naturally healing others.
Right. And so in some of the cases, though, when the individual lucid dreamer sought to heal somebody, and they would project healing light or healing energy on the person, they could see that the energy or the light was bouncing off of the person as if they had an invisible force field around them, which deflected the healing energy. And in those cases, the person had no healing occurred. But I remember in my workshop, there was a woman who had an elderly mother who was in a nursing home. And in her first 3 lucid dreams, each time she sought to send healing energy to her mother in the nursing home. After the 3rd lucid dream, her mother called her up and told her to sit down because she had good news for her. And the mother told the woman, she said that somehow all of her bed sores had disappeared for the first time in a few years.
Wow.
And she was no longer having any pain. So you can see that maybe there's some collective unconscious, maybe there's some implicate order, maybe we're interconnected much more than we really know, and that when we direct healing intent in a lucid dream, it can have profound effect. And obviously, this is something that a scientist could study in a research project quite simply.
Well, I think, just from listening to your really interesting work, that, the more I do this show, the more I realize that there is a connection there, that we are connected, that, one day, that there'll be more, science will take this a bit more seriously than it does do, that there's definitely something greater than just me or you. It's a collective consciousness, isn't it? That's what it seems to be. And but if you're a very religious person, heavily indoctrinated into your religion, does your work is it something they can accept, or would they say this is of the devil, for example?
Yeah. Normally people who have a spiritual or a religious orientation see the value in this. They see the value in using lucid dreaming to have spiritual experiences. For example, I'd encourage any of your listeners, if you become lucidly aware, don't try to find God or Buddha, because you'll probably get so excited you'll wake up, and you don't want to do that in a lucid dream. But here's what I suggest that people do. If you become lucidly aware, just ignore all the dream figures, ignore the dream setting, and just shout out to the dream, "Hey, let me experience unconditional love," or "Hey, show me what it feels like to have divine compassion," or something like that, some quality of the divine. And normally when they ask that in a lucid dream, normally the lucid dream will change dramatically, and they'll have an incredibly profound and deep spiritual experience.
Okay, Robert, we'll stay tuned, and we'll be back right after this quick break.
The More Show is in partnership with Ozark Mountain Publishing, taking readers beyond the unexplained.
If you like what you watch, then don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates on The More Show. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new weekly television and radio shows.
The More Show is supported by Mindscape, Paranormal and UFO Matrix magazines, available for download on all major digital platforms. Broadcasting from the studios of Radio Cardiff, you're now watching The More Show.
Welcome back to the show. Now, don't forget you can also watch us live on the video stream by going to themoreshow.co.uk and clicking the clicking the Watch Us Live, and you'll be able to see Robert live on Skype as well. So, Robert Waggoner, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, Kevin.
Just before the ad break there, again, getting into some of your workshops that you're doing as well. And not only giving workshops, you've also given lectures to some pretty big universities in Michigan, I think, and some other smaller colleges. What's been the reaction to your work there?
Right. Yeah. So just this past month, I gave talks to the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor and University of Washington and Boston, Washington, and Evergreen State College. And I want to make clear that lucid dreaming has a scientific basis, and actually it's related to some work that occurred in the UK. Back in 1975, there was a graduate student, Keith Hearn, at the University of Hull, who happened to meet a lucid dreamer named Alan Worsley. But Keith Hearn wondered, how could you prove that someone could become consciously aware in the dream state? And finally, it occurred to him that the way you could prove this is you could have the person, when they're consciously aware in a sleep lab, wear polygraph pads to record their eye movement. And when the lucid dreamer became lucidly aware, if he or she would look left and right 8 times, that would be recorded on the polygraph pad, the readout, and it would show that they're consciously aware within the dream. And in the spring of 1975, Alan Worsley, the lucid dreamer, did this in the sleep lab at the University of Hull. And that was really the first scientific evidence that showed lucid dreaming exists. And since that time, there's been hundreds of studies that have replicated that same experiment and many books written on lucid dreaming. So all of this has a scientific basis, and that's kind of the beauty of it. It's been discussed in spiritual traditions like Buddhism and Sufism and all for thousands of years.
Yeah.
And it's been discussed by parapsychologists for hundreds of years, but it's finally moved into being scientifically accepted, the idea that you can become consciously aware within a dream. And the beautiful thing then is you can experiment. So all these things that I've mentioned, you could do an experiment on getting precognitive information in a lucid dream. You could do an experiment on getting telepathic information in a lucid dream. You could do an experiment on healing yourself in a lucid dream. All of these could be scientific experiments if people really understood the depth and power of lucid dreaming. And that's what I try to get across in these university lectures to the students.
Okay. Obviously, you're aware of the term remote viewing. This does sound very familiar in some aspects.
Right. Oftentimes, people will also compare lucid dreaming, besides to remote viewing, as somewhat like shamanic journeying. Or sometimes Jungian dream workers will say, well, this is very much like active imagination. But shamanic journeying and active imagination occur while you're awake, and you go into a meditative state, and as does remote viewing, you go into a deep state and use your consciousness. The beautiful thing about lucid dreaming, at least from the Buddhist perspective, they say that actions performed at that level of consciousness, when you're sleeping and dreaming, when you're consciously aware at that level, they say normally it's 7 to 9 times more powerful than an action, the same action performed in the waking state, because you're already at a deep level of awareness in the dreaming subconscious.
You know, I've that sounds a lot like that you're more aware than being awake as well.
You know, it's amazing when you become lucidly aware, you have an incredible clarity of thought. You might not be wise or intelligent or very rational, but your clarity of thought is quite extraordinary. And that's why I recommend to people that if you're going to do an experiment in a lucid dream, devise it while you're waking, because then it'll be very thoughtful and rational. If you try to think of an experiment while you're lucid dreaming, sometimes you can't. I remember the first time I tried to get precognitive information in a lucid dream, I became lucid. I remembered that was my goal. And then I thought, well, how can I get precognitive information when I'm cognating now? And I had this little philosophical crisis. And so in the morning when I woke up, I realized, oh, I have to project the answer apart from me somehow.
Okay.
And that's how I can get precognitive information in the lucid dream.
Okay, so for the listeners of radio and the viewers of the TV show, tell me some easy tips to help help people that want to experience lucid dreams and what they need to do.
Right. So first, it helps to get into the habit of remembering your dreams. You have to be able to remember 2 or 3 dreams a night, and so what I do is keep a dream journal by my bed, and in the middle of the night, I'll write down some notes. And so in the morning, when I see the notes, I can recall the dream. But you have to get into the habit of remembering your dreams. Then you can use something simple like suggestion. Just flood your mind before you go to sleep. Tonight, in my dreams, I'll be more critically aware. And when I see something unusual, I'll realize I'm dreaming. So you can use that suggestion just over and over until you get so sleepy you fall asleep. But here's how I taught myself how to lucid dream in 1975 when I was a junior in high school. I've been reading the book Journey to Ixtlan by Carlos Castaneda, and he had been taught by a shaman that he should become aware in his dreams by finding his hands. And there were hardly any instructions, but I just made up my own. So this is what I did, Kevin. Each night before I go to sleep, I just look at my hands while telling myself, tonight in my dreams, I'll see my hands and realize I'm dreaming. Tonight in my dreams, I'll see my hands and realize I'm dreaming. Tonight in my dreams, I'll see my hands and realize I'm dreaming. I do that for 5 or 6 minutes, fall asleep. On the 3rd night of doing this, I'm walking through the hallway of my high school when all of a sudden, boom, my hands popped right in front of my face. And I saw my hands and I thought, oh my God, this is a dream. And it was so incredible to realize that everything, these were dream figures over here, this was a dream wall over there. It was really an extraordinary moment when you realize within a dream that you're dreaming. But that's how I taught myself back in 1975.
Do you know, just talking to you reminds me of the film Inception, where it's dreams within a dream within a dream. It's pretty incredible. Just just how long these dreams tend to last for. Though I mean, sometimes when I've had these aware dreams, lucid dreaming, the duration seems to be for a lot longer than the sleep. Is that common?
Well, at the beginning, maybe not so common. Oftentimes what happens is in the beginning, people get so excited, they wake themselves up or they get re-entranced by the dream and they lose their lucidity. But some people seem to have an ability to just immediately know how to stabilize lucid dream and then proceed from there. So if you have that ability, that's wonderful.
I mean, I did mention Inception just there as well. I mean, have you seen the film Inception?
Right. Christopher Nolan reported that he himself was a lucid dreamer and that he had always wondered, could you insert an idea into another person's mind when you're lucidly aware? And I think in that story of my friend Mo, who I saw in the lucid dream, and I showed her the peace sign, and then later in waking reality, she shoved the peace sign in my face before she even said hello. That kind of shows that there might be something to that idea. The only thing about the movie Inception, of course, in all my 30-some years of lucid dreaming, I've never been involved in a car chase or a gun battle. And so that's relatively rare in a lucid dream.
Well, exactly, yeah, no. So without the car chases and the gun battles and everything, but it does make a really good film, I must say as well. But just speaking to you and seeing your reaction via the video link, 30 years and you're still just as amazed and the work just keeps you going in this field, doesn't it? I mean, it really just excites you, don't it? This kind of work.
What's amazing, it's just like art. You can give anyone a bunch of paints and paintbrushes, and they'll do okay. But when you start to explain the concepts to them, okay, have you ever tried to do this? And then conceptually, like an artist, what they begin to do and produce and create is just utterly profound and amazing. I used to have a radio show on Iowa Public Radio, which is kind of our BBC here in the U.S. And one day the show was on dreams and lucid dreams and creativity. And a gentleman called up who had been a member of the Iowa Writers Workshop, this famous workshop led by Kurt Vonnegut. And this gentleman said whenever he was writing a novel and he got stuck, he would try to have a lucid dream, and when he became lucidly aware, he would call the novel characters to him, and he would ask them, what's wrong with our novel? And then these novel characters would give him suggestions on how he could improve the novel. And so you can imagine one of them saying, oh, you never should have killed Aunt Mary in chapter 3. We need her at the end of the book to make sense of it all. And so people use this for incredibly profound and creative and very practical purposes. In Stephen LaBerge's book, Exploring the World of Lucid Dreaming, he writes of a software programmer who writes code. He would become lucidly aware. He would call Albert Einstein to him, and he and Albert Einstein would sit there and work on software code in the lucid dream, and then he would memorize it all and wake up with it. And the gentleman reported 99% of the time it was dead on correct. So
amazing.
In these states, you're accessing a larger awareness, and we've become so ego focused. We've lost touch with that larger awareness and the incredible capacity and knowledge that it has.
Oh, it's just incredible. But could you use it for getting the lottery numbers, for example? I mean, it can't be used, I wouldn't have thought, for such things, or could it? Are you there, Robert?
Yeah.
Sorry, no, I was just saying that. Could you use this gift, well, not gift, but lucid dreaming in a sense, for getting the lottery numbers, or is that something is there certain things it can or cannot be used for?
You can always try, and I've heard of 2 people who have succeeded with that. One, the person's deceased mother, as she was saying goodbye to him in the lucid dream, just rambled off 4 numbers, and the lucid dreamer found it so strange that next day he bought lottery tickets with those 4 numbers, and I think he won about $1,000. Which he said was very helpful because he needed to pay the rent that month. So it's amazing how deep you can take this, but in some ways, it's like Buckaroo Banzai in The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai said that no matter where you go, there you are. And so you have to work through yourself, your own limiting beliefs, your own fears, your own concerns, your own disbelief and lack of expectations. You have to work through all of that if you're really going to become good at lucid dreaming. Okay.
And, the lucid dream mask, just explain that quickly to us.
Right. There were some gentlemen who kind of copied something that Stephen LaBerge had done, which is he created what they called a Nova Dreamer. And what this did is it recognized when you were in rapid eye movement, and then it would flash red lights into your eyes as you were dreaming. And hopefully you would see red lights in your dream and then realize that as a signal to become lucidly aware. And so these other gentlemen here recently, a year ago, created the REMI, which is another kind of mask, but it flashes red lights in your eyes, but it doesn't recognize when you're in the dream state. It just relies on chance to help you become lucidly aware.
Now, again, just remind us in the coming months across the UK where you're going to be, please.
Right. So we'll be in Dublin at the Hilton here on May 18th and 19th. It's a Gateways of the Mind conference. You can find more information at archetypeevents.com. Also, May 25th and 26th, I'll be giving 2 workshops in London. Again, with the Gateways of the Mind people and some other presenters, Mary Zimmer and Carolyn McCready. And then on June 1st and June 2nd, we'll be in Amsterdam with the Gateways of the Mind. with another conference on lucid dreams and out-of-body experiences.
Okay. And again, your website as well, just so we can link that on.
Right. My book website is lucidadvice.com, or you can also check out my free magazine at luciddreammagazine.com.
Well, where would you see the future of your work? Would you see it more in presentations, the magazine, or where would you like to go with your work? More books?
Well, yeah, I have some books in mind, creating a workbook to help people become lucidly aware. Because becoming lucidly aware is just the first step, then you have to realize how to work within that lucid dream environment, to really work within it in a thoughtful way, to proceed more quickly as a lucid dreamer and more thoughtfully. And then I'm also going to write a book on the spiritual aspect of lucid dreaming, doing things like, can you seek out past life information in a lucid dream?
Hey, now that's interesting. That's interesting, yeah.
And so things like that are things that I'm going to cover in my next book, because there's a lot of fascinating things that you can do with lucid dreaming. And also, again, this is very rational. You can get valid information that you can verify upon waking. And so I don't want people to think that you just take this all on faith or whatever, that if you thoughtfully structure the lucid dream experience and experiment, you can rationally get information that shows to you what mystics have been saying forever, that time and space are fundamental illusions, and that there's more going on here than the ego and the waking world.
Yeah, because I think sometimes the poor ego, it kind of gets in the way of some of this work, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I think the important thing about using the ego is getting it to be flexible, to understand that if it allows information in from the larger awareness, it's for the good of the ego and for the good of the larger self. And so if you can kind of work with the ego and make it more flexible, you'll have much greater success with this kind of work.
Okay, well, Robert, just thank you so much for joining us. And as I've said to other guests on the show, please come back when we've got our syndication up and running as well in the next few months.
Great, Kevin. I appreciate the opportunity, and lucid wishes to everyone out there.
Thank you so much for joining us. Well, we've come to the end of on tonight's show. Don't forget that you can listen and watch all our past interviews on the More Show's official YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new daily shows, and you may also find out more on past and upcoming guests on The More Show via the website themoreshow.co.uk, and do like us on Facebook for the latest updates. So until next time, be safe.
Visit themoreshow.co.uk/shop to purchase products and services from your favourite past guests. If you're new to this site, you can also catch up on the previous television and radio shows through YouTube and the More Show website.